New Orleans is marching to the rhythm of the Saints, led by the best set of linebackers inside the NFL.
I'm Brian Burwell. In this week's cover story, we'll take a look at Craig Hayward, the Saints fullback who knows a thing or two about the good life and the family life here in the Crescent City.
Hi, I'm Earl Campbell. I played in the NFL. I also played for the Houston Oilers and New Orleans Saints. If you want to know what I'm doing now, stay tuned.
We've traveled to New Orleans to discuss the undefeated Saints. Joining us will be Coach Jim Mora, veteran tackles Stan Brock, and linebackers Pat Swilling and Sam Mills. Now, from New Orleans, home of the 5-0 Saints, inside the NFL, with your hosts, Len Dawson, Nick Bonacati, and Chris Collinsworth.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the French Quarter in New Orleans, Louisiana. Now, to our veteran viewers, if this scene looks familiar, it should be, because a few years ago we were here to celebrate with the Saints when they posted their very first winning season in their 20 years of existence. But this week we're here because they are hot. Not only are they the talk of this town, they're the talk of the entire country with that 5-0 start.
Lenny, when you usually talk about a team that's 5-0, you talk about the offense, you talk about the quarterback, but not here in New Orleans, the French Quarter. They talk about a defense that hasn't given up a single point in 3 ball games, and that offense of theirs is riding their coattails.
Yeah, but look at the teams they shut out. The Rams, Jim Everett still hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. The Minnesota Vikings, they haven't scored a touchdown in 10 quarters. The Atlanta Falcons averaging 12 points a game. What's the big deal?
Naysayer, man. I don't know how you can knock a defense that has the most active and exciting linebacking quartet in the league. You guys got Johnson, Jackson, Mills, and Swilling. These guys have 10.5 sacks already, and they're just warming up.
What's the big deal, he said. Maybe he's been sniffing that air at Spinney Field where the Bengals practice. What the big deal is, you win championships with great defenses, and along with the Redskins right now, the Saints are playing better than anybody in the National Football League. They're not doing it just here in the Dome. They're doing it on the road as well. For example, last week they beat Atlanta on natural grass.
Yeah, but who have they beaten, really? I mean, the only team that the Saints have beaten with a winning record are the Kansas City Chiefs. And you know as well as I do that that Chiefs team is not as good even as they were last year. A good team, absolutely. A great team, we shall see.
Well, Saints didn't make up the schedule. They just played the games. But you do bring up a point I'm sure a lot of viewers across the country are asking, are the Saints for real? Well, we're going to find out because we'll be talking to several members of that organization on the show today. The Saints aren't the only team pulling away from their division rivals. Just check out the standings in the NFC East or the AFC East. 3 games is a lot to make up with just 11 to play.
Try to remember a day in September when Jim Mora's Saints were closing in on 5-0, pulling away and waving goodbye to the competition. But in Atlanta, the Falcons tried to pull away early.
Leonard in motion. Back to throw comes Hebert. Right over the middle, and they hit him, and he fumbled when the ball is rolling around, and is picked up by Tippins. The 15, the 10, the 5. Tippins in the corner. Touchdown!
Linebacker Ken Tippins made it 6-3 Falcons, but when it comes to linebacking, no team can match the Saints' Fab Four, led by veteran hitter Ricky Jackson, who spearheaded the charge with 3 sacks. Mora's men barely broke a sweat as his defense rolled up its sleeves and never let the Falcons inside the Saint 45. They've not allowed a touchdown in 12 straight quarters, while Bobby Hebert and Floyd Turner hooked up twice for scores. New Orleans beat Atlanta for the 8th time in 9 games as Saint fans celebrated with the snake wiggle face wipe funk, newly choreographed for the first undefeated September in club history. A 27-6 win iced by Dalton Hilliard.
Pitch out to Hilliard, running to the outside. He got down the sideline. He could go all the way and will. He's the 30, the 20. He's going all the way. Touchdown, Dalton Hilliard.
At 5-0, the Saints aren't marching in. They're marching out and far away from everyone in the NFC West. In Washington, the Redskins look to put some distance between themselves and their closest competition in the NFC East. And on Monday night, the visiting Eagles were light years away. After Eagles quarterback Jim McMahon left the game with a knee injury in the first quarter, the Redskins devoured backup Pat Ryan as Washington recorded 5 sacks and limited Philadelphia to 89 total yards. Meanwhile, the NFL's highest scoring offense rolled on as Art Monk's second quarter score got the Redskins on the board, and Ernest Biner's fourth quarter run put the game away. In their 3 home games this season, the Redskins have outscored their opponents 102-0. At 5-0, they're setting the tempo and moving to their own beat atop the NFC East. The Bears don't lose in September, 23-2 since 1985. The Bills don't lose at home, 12 wins in a row at Rich Stadium. It promised to be a war between 2 undefeated teams. And within this war would be a battle between 2 of the game's 3 best running backs.
Battle for the number 2 back spot. Bears number 1, me and Neil battle for number 2. Whoever had a better game will be at number 2, the loser will be at number 3.
Last year, Bruce Smith proclaimed himself the number 1 defensive player in the game. His return from a knee injury had the Bills ready to make some noise.
It's going to be kind of hectic today.
And talk some trash.
Real hectic. It's going to be a place for the faint of heart to stay at home. So stay at home if you don't want to get hit.
Keep it up now, D! Keep it up! Get that ball back!
Nice head. Nice head.
Everybody get a block. No penalties. Use good judgment back from the guys.
As expected, this was a battle of brawn, but it was also one of brains. Mike Ditka stressed no penalties, yet his Bears committed 10 in the first half, including one that nullified Neil Anderson's lead in the battle for number 2.
He's in the end zone for the touchdown. There is a penalty marker down. Offensive pass interference. Number 33. 10 yards.
While Chicago couldn't seem to catch a break, the Bills got a lucky one in the end zone.
4th and inches for Jim Kelly and company. Give to Gardner, hits the middle of the line. Ball, the football. It's covered up in the end zone, I believe, by the Bills.
Harwell Gardner recovered his own fumble on 4th down to score a touchdown. And then Jim Kelly found a man who since 1987 has caught just 10 passes, all for touchdowns.
Here is a fake by Kelly and a pass, and it is caught for the touchdown by Butch Roll. Who else? Mr. Touchdown in that situation.
Al Edwards didn't have any touchdowns coming into this game, but he caught a sweet one Sunday.
To the end zone, Edwards, touchdown! It is a touchdown! Al Edwards on a picture-perfect throw.
Picture perfect pretty much describes Jim Kelly's year so far. His 3 touchdown passes against the Bears raised his season total to 14. No other quarterback has more than 8.
No. I thought he was going to overthrow you.
And even though he may not always be sure of his touch, there is no doubting his strength.
First, lets it go long down the field, and it is taken by Lofton at the 30, at the 20.
James Lofton moved past Ozzie Newsome into 4th place on the all-time receiving list.
What a great play!
And after he got done burning the Bears secondary to give Buffalo a 28-13 lead, he took his turn blocking them to help keep the Bills undefeated. Thurman Thomas's 117 yards and 4th quarter score made him the unofficial winner in the battle for number 2. But more important, He kept Buffalo #1 and pulling away in the AFC East.
5-0. 5-0, baby.
First down at the 5.
5-0.
First and goal to go.
4-0, no more. 5-0. 5-0.
The record speak for itself.
You guys on a mission?
Yeah. We're on a mission from God, like the Blues Brothers. One more thing. The Bears.
The Buffalo Bills and the New Orleans Saints share a common debt to the old USFL. Jim Kelly was the premier quarterback in the spring league, and Saints coach Jim Mora the most successful coach. Now they are instrumental in 2 of the NFL's undefeated teams. Nick is with Saints coach Jim Mora.
Jim, you're really in a catbird seat now. You're the only winning coach in Saints history. Last year you went to the playoffs. Now, is this the team that can get to the championship?
I don't know, Nick. We're trying, but we don't look down the road that far. We've got a good football team. There's no question about it. But we've got to stay healthy and keep playing like we've been playing, and we got a chance.
Your defense, the linebackers, have just had an outstanding year so far. But everybody's saying the difference in the defense this year is the improved secondary. Is that true?
That's been a big part of it. Our secondary now has been, we've got some experience back there for the first time, some guys that have played in our system before that, and the defensive line is a good group, the best group that we've had since we've been here, and that's helped the linebacker play, which has always been outstanding.
Sam Mills, 5'9", 225 pounds. What makes this guy go?
Nick, everybody makes a big thing about Sam's height, and they should just forget about it. The guy's just a great football player. He's just got great instinct, great movement, knock your head off. He's just an outstanding player.
You said that he was the best inside linebacker in the league.
I don't think there's anybody any better. Now, I don't like to make comparisons because I just coach Sam and not some of these other guys like Singletary and people like that. But I wouldn't trade him for anybody.
The offense. Last year, Steve Walsh was your quarterback. Now Bobby Hebert comes in, and you put him in as the starting quarterback. Has Bobby made that big of a difference?
I think it's helped a lot, getting somebody with the experience that Bobby's had in our system, and that's not taking anything away from Steve, because Steve did a remarkable job for us last year. But Bobby has been around and been with us, and he's helped.
When Ironhead Hayward came into the league, Jim, I thought he was going to be a superstar. Now I see where he's ballooned up to 285 pounds. Does this bother you? Are you satisfied with his performance?
Yeah, Craig's played well for us, and he's a good football player, and I think he's just going to continue to improve, and I'm pleased with the way he's playing.
Are you going to feature him in your offense if he's healthy?
Yeah, well, he's been carrying the ball quite a bit for us. He and Gil Finnerty have been our 2 main ball carriers this year because Dalton's been hurt, but I think Dalton's going to be getting back with us, so that we've got those 3 guys, and they'll all have a chance to carry the football.
Coach, you guys are 5-0, but as I look at your schedule, you really haven't played many contenders. Kansas City, I guess, would be the only one. You're going up to Philadelphia, your next game up in Philadelphia. Will this be your first real test?
It'll be a test for us, Nick, but I still think that we've played 5 good football teams, and I think we've been tested every week, and we're going to continue to get tested every week.
Well, Jim McMahon is not going to play in that ball game. That obviously gives you guys a big edge.
Well, we've got some guys that won't play either. We've got some guys banged up, so it's going to be a write-off as far as I'm concerned in that respect.
Well, Coach, best of luck the rest of the year. You're 5-0. Keep it going.
Thanks, Nick.
Chris, Jim Mora certainly is the diplomat, giving credit to all the teams the Saints have defeated. But since the Saints have yet to win a playoff game, maybe he's right when he says he doesn't know if they're a championship team.
Well, the Saints have yet to win a playoff game, but Jim Mora and Bobby Hebert, who both won championships in the USFL, have at least had championship experience. It's not the National Football League, of course, but that experience should help them if they ever get into the playoffs this year.
And another guy that's a real leader on that team, linebacker Sam Mills, was with him in Philadelphia. Jim Mora hasn't had to worry about coming back after a loss, but certain coaches around the league welcome back their winning ways with much-needed victories.
Joe Bugle and the Cardinals were welcomed back for their second home game of the season by a 115-degree temperature on the field and a scorching rookie in the end zone.
Ball up the left side of the 5, 10. Tries to break it outside across the 15, 20, 25, 30. He's to the outside of the 35, 40, 45, 50. Down the sideline of the 40 of the Cardinals. 45, 30. Goodbye. Touchdown, Patriots.
John Vaughn's 99-yard return was the first kickoff run back for a touchdown this season and had Bugle seeing red.
Come on, let's go. 10 yards a clip. Come on.
Get some enthusiasm out there. Get after the ball. Sack. Big sack. Big sack.
Coming back, pressure coming, going to be sacked. The ball is loose. Harvey got the sack, and the Cardinals have the football.
While Bugle's defense has demonstrated it knows what it takes to win, his quarterback is still learning.
Hey, Duke, it's automatic. Anytime it's heavy, it's an automatic tight. See what I mean? Anytime we go heavy, it's always tight in there, baby, okay? It's when we have ace in there, that's when we'll call the tight for you to get Ricky in there tight, all right? Now we're in tight, so it's going to be 80 toss, Z reverse left. Tell the guys in there, okay? It's going to be a big play for us.
After 12 quarters without a touchdown, the Cardinal offense finally put it in.
Give it to him, Tupa.
From the 15-yard line, back to throw. Tupa scrambling around, throws in the air side. Johnny Johnson's got it. Touchdown.
The Cardinals gain more confidence with every completion, putting the heat on the Patriot defense. And there would be little relief as Phoenix converted 11 of 16 third down plays.
Boy, I tell you, Tupa playing very, very well. Tupa back to throw. Protection is there. Throwing the near side, making his break. It's Jones. He got it. Touchdown, Indiana.
On this day, Patriot head coach Don McPherson saw a quarterback come of age. Unfortunately for New England, he was on the other sideline.
Now's the time to be smart, Stud, you know what I mean? Exceptionally smart. How do you feel about it? Okay, fine. A couple big plays, Stud, right here.
Tom Tupa did play it head smart, throwing for career highs in completions, yardage, and touchdown.
The throw is Tupa on 3rd and 5 over the middle, complete to Pro. He's got it at the 40. He's to the 30, the 25, the 20, 10, 5. He's in. Touchdown.
After 2 straight losses, Bugle could breathe a sigh of relief as the return of his offense was indeed a welcome sight. After losing 10 of their last 12 games played in a dome, the Denver Broncos weren't feeling particularly welcome last Sunday night as the Vikings' Herschel Walker burned up the Metrodome rug for 103 yards. But on this evening, it proved to be another power runner who would win this game.
Here's the big third down play. Vikings are showing blitz, and here they come. Elway on the quarterback draw, runs to the 15, to the 10, gets away from Browner at the 5, fights his way into the end zone for a touchdown. Oh, what a run by John Elway.
Leading 13-6, the Broncos held on as the Vikings let a last-minute 4th and 3 chance at a drive-sustaining first down slip away.
Back, here's Gannon, here's the rush, there's the pass dropped at the 6-yard line. It was there.
While the Broncos' 4th victory was welcomed in Denver, in Anaheim, the Rams' Jim Everett welcomed the opportunity to stick his first touchdown pass of the season on the Green Bay Packers. However, for the 5th time this season, Everett's bid to throw a touchdown came up short. While Packers quarterback Don Majkowski's bid for a healthy season did the same. Majkowski suffered a partial dislocation of the left shoulder while scoring the Pack's first touchdown. And his replacement, Blair Keel, number 10, simply suffered for the rest of the afternoon. While Keel managed to rally the Packers late in the game, Green Bay was unable to overcome 2 first-half fumbles that led to touchdowns in a 23-21 Rams victory.
Up the far side lines of the 10, cuts to the center of the field, fumbles the ball. It's grabbed by Newman. Newman's going to go in and score. Touchdown, Rams.
For the Rams, Broncos, and Cardinals, Week 5 proved to be a much-welcomed week of victory.
The injury to quarterback Don Majkowski undoubtedly will have an effect on the Green Bay Packers, but let's face it, the Packers were not on their way to a championship season. But, Nick, on the other hand, the injury to the Eagles' Jim McMahon has really hurt their cause.
Yeah, now Rich Kotite, who had dreams of going to a Super Bowl, is playing a guy, Pat Ryan. The only reason he's there is because he knew Kotite's system when Kotite was with the Jets. This guy cannot play in the NFL. The Eagles will not win many games this year.
Well, I told you guys at the beginning of the season that Jim McMahon would never make it through an entire NFL season. He never has in the past, and he didn't this year. And now Pat Ryan has to try and step in. I think the Eagles' only chance now is to go via the trade route, have to give up something off of that great defense that they have. If they decide not to go that way, 2 of the guys they tried out with Pat Ryan, David Archer, and Turk Schonert from my team may be the next alternatives.
Oh, yeah, those are two winners.
Easy.
I'll tell you what has to happen. That great Eagle defense not only has to stop the opposition, they got to find a way to score some points. Well, a few weeks ago, the Rams were slaughtered by the Saints, who were helped in part by 2 Craig Hayward touchdown runs. In this week's cover story, we take a look at the man they call Ironhead, a man of robust size and heart.
In a way, it's rather appropriate that we begin our look at New Orleans fullback Craig Hayward here in a weight room, since, let's face it, the issue of weight has always played a major role in the football life of the man they call Ironhead. Now, this is supposed to be a sport dominated by the big man, yet the Saints seem to believe that their big guy would do a whole lot better if he would just shed a few pounds. Football experts will tell you that Hayward has been overweight his entire career, including his college days at Pittsburgh, where he weighed between 240 and 250 pounds. Hayward is Pitt's second all-time rushing leader and ran for 100 yards or more in every game his final year, but as always, those impressive stats were overshadowed by his constant weight problem.
He's always had a weight problem. I think he always will have one. I can remember one time when he weighed about 240 pounds, and I put him on a strict diet, and he picked up about 25 pounds immediately.
Hayward left Pitt with 1 year of eligibility remaining, and now in his 4th year with the Saints, the matter of weight is still an issue that concerns and frustrates the New Orleans coaching staff.
If Craig Hayward really honed down, which is one of the knocks that I have on him, if he really gets more disciplined and decides he wants to be one of the best ever, he has a chance. If he just stays in shape year-round and honed down, I think he can be something special.
I figured, well, Craig can be a great back if he loses weight. You know, I know how my body is, and so I decided to say, you know, the hell with it, I'm just going to be the old Craig Hayward and just play football. You know, I go out there and I work my butt off, and it just, you know, my metabolism is a lot slower than the average guy, and it's extremely hard for me to lose weight. You know, you can't fault a person for being as big as he is, and you got to look at my family. I come from a very big family, so it's not something that I just all of a sudden got fat or big. You know, it's in my family.
The weight problem, coupled with some off-field altercations, has created friction with head coach Jim Mora, who declined to speak with us about Hayward. But that didn't stop Ironhead from talking about Mora.
Our relationship is not the greatest. You know, it's not one like I can say, yo, coach, let's go have a beer together, you know, one of those. No, it's just one where, you know, I don't say nothing to him unless I have to, and I'm quite sure he doesn't say anything to me unless he has to.
But now, with the Saints unbeaten and Hayward off to his most impressive individual start, the turmoil seems to be fading. Hayward says the improvement of his life, both on and off the field, has a lot to do with, believe it or not, being a family man.
His relationship with Cameron, I can see he's really trying to be a father, and he really didn't have a father figure in his life. And he sees how my dad is with my sister and I think he is envious of that and is trying to build that relationship between he and Cameron.
Just enjoying watching him grow up and, you know, seeing him how he matures as he gets older. Well, he's only but 2. But my father has never been around for me, so I just try to be around for him. Growing up the way I grew up, I haven't learned how to love, and so I think once I got married and with her parents, you know, saying, you know, we love you, and I'm like, I ain't used to hearing this, you know.
So whether he's on the football field or just at home relaxing with the family, Craig Hayward has decided that the key to happiness, at least for Ironhead, is just being his wild and crazy self.
Well, yes, I am.
Let me throw this around real quick. I got through those DBs.
And tonight we're serving fried pork chop.
I just don't know, so I don't do a hell of a lot. You don't use Crisco, you use lard.
Jambalaya.
What's next?
Steamed broccoli.
Working with the head. Shit, it's fun fighting to get here already. Running backs are not supposed to be this big. We're minutes away from chowing down. Long day, long day.
And the famous Ironhead cheesecake.
Let's call it a day.
Come in, get it!
Ironhead Hayward has been running behind an offensive line that has had 4 players fall to injury. Only guard Jim Dombrowski and tackle Stan Brock have been in the lineup every game. 12-year veteran Brock joins Chris now to talk more about the Saints offense.
Stan, this is your 12th year with the New Orleans Saints. You've been here in the worst of times when the fans wore bags over their heads and you guys were called the Aints. Now you're 5-0. The whole town is going crazy. But take us back to those early days of the New Orleans Saints and compare it to what's going on now.
Well, the fans in New Orleans are a group that are going to come. They love their football team. They're going to be in the stadium. In 1980, they came. They filled the stadium up, but they came and booed. They booed from introduction to the end of the game, and they had the right. We won our 15th game that year in late December. Now we've won 5 games in a row. They're still filling up, but they don't boo anymore. They're there to cheer you. That's all that people talk about in New Orleans, so everyone's really happy and excited.
You've been through so many different coaching changes here with the New Orleans Saints. How much credit does Jim Mora get for the turnaround of this ball club? An incredible 51-35 since he's taken over here, 5-0 this year, and before that the Saints had never even had a winning record.
Right.
How much credit for Jim Mora?
Well, what he's done is brought a level of consistency to our team. He expects us to do things right all the time. If we're having a bad practice, he'll start the practice over. We don't go back a few plays. We just start the whole thing over. So what he's done is kept us from getting real high after a win or real low after a loss. And what we try and do is just maintain consistent. And that's what he's done and done a great job of it.
How about Bobby Hebert? He returns this year after holding out last season. Your offense has been much more consistent, especially over the past 3 games. What kind of a difference has he made?
Yeah, he's a super guy. He was always accepted the team even last year during his holdout when we would have player functions. He was always invited. So the players, his teammates have always respected him and liked the way he plays football. So when he came back, everyone rallied around him, and we were glad to have him back. And he's made a huge difference in our little control offense that we try and run.
5-0, off to a great start. Some people say you really haven't played anybody, only one team with a winning record thus far in the Kansas City Chiefs. 2 games with the San Francisco 49ers yet to be played. Is this team for real?
I think so. I think we're working very hard to be for real. I think our defense is definitely for real. I know that offensively we have our work cut out for us. We have to play the very best that we can play just to compete. But I think that without a question our defense is very much for real.
Stan, 12 years now in the National Football League. You've seen the worst of times. Now it's the best of times. Do you find yourself sitting around daydreaming about the Super Bowl, the possibility of winning it all?
You know, it's funny. The thing I'm most excited about are the old guys, the John Meekums and the Derlin Moores and the Archie Mannings and Joe Fettersfield, the guys who never got to be 5-0 or see the city in an uproar like this. And now maybe they can stick their chest out a little bit and say, yeah, I used to play for the Saints. So that's who I'm most excited for.
Stan, thanks for being with us.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Nick Stanbrock can really appreciate winning because he's been through so much adversity.
Lenny, when you look at the composition of a football team and the balance of what it takes to get to a championship, sure, you need the young guys, the rookies and the first and second year guys. You need the 5- and 6-year veterans like a Pat Swilling and a Sam Mills, but you need 11- and 12-year veterans like a Ricky Jackson and a Stan Brock. The reason for that, in times of adversity, when you're really having a tough time in a game, those are the guys who will pull you through.
And the first thing they will tell them the next game is just because we're 5-0, don't expect to show up and win. We're not a dominating team. We've got to play hard every week because the NFL is very unpredictable. How unpredictable? Giants had beaten up the Cowboys 6 straight times. The 49ers had beaten 12 straight AFC opponents. And the Jets were coming off 2 heartbreaking losses. So what happens? A total reversal of fortune.
Who needs football ticket? I got tickets to the Cowboys. I got 30-yard line ones, lower level, section 8.
How much you want for
$40 a piece.
Tight.
Ah, come on, let's go tickets.
A $40 ticket used to be a bargain for a New York Giant game, but that was then. This is now. Last Sunday in Dallas, the Super Bowl champs continued their reversal of fortune by consistently coughing up the football in all the wrong places.
And the Giants start at the 8, bootleg by Hostetler, play fake, throws it out to Jared Bunch, the rookie at the 20. Fumble! Horton picks it up, 15, 10, Horton, touchdown Cowboys!
Fortunately for New York, the strange sort of voodoo magic that jinxed their ball carriers had little effect on their quarterback. Jeff Hostetler hit on 28 of 34 passes, producing 368 aerial yards for an offense that had been criticized as boring. But while the man they call Hoss was having a bonanza in Dallas, the real high noon hero of this Texas shootout was a rifle-armed quarterback named Troy. Trailing by 2 in the game's final minutes, the Cowboys drove 84 yards in 8 plays, culminating with an Aikman TD strike to number 88, Michael Irvin.
Second down and about 12 at the Giants' 23. Aikman straight drop, throws right, Irvin at the 5. Irvin fighting Collins, touchdown, Michael Irvin.
The Aikman to Irvin connection proved to be the game winner thanks to some last-second heroics in the end zone by cornerback Isaac Holt.
Here's second down. Hostetler back to throw. No pressure. Deep to the end zone on the right sideline. The ball's intercepted by Isaac Holt.
With their 21-16 victory, the Cowboys clearly made the point that while the Giants' fortunes are in reverse, their prospects are certainly on the rise.
Good job in there. That's the way to work in there, Robert. Hell of a job. That's the way to hang in there. That's the way to hang in there. Good job, Jack. That's the way to hang in there, Jack. Fantastic job by every one of you. And I think that's the whole key, is every one of you, just like what we said before and what we said at halftime. 47 guys believing, 47 guys hanging in there for 4 quarters. Hey, super job, because you could have gotten down, you know, when they got on top of you, and you could have said, oh, here it goes again. But those days are over with. It's not going to be here it goes again. 4 quarters of football, anything can happen. Hey, only thing I say on this, as excited as we are now, as much as we love it, it only counts 1 win. It counts 1 win. Hey, let's enjoy the hell out of this one, and let's get ready for next week.
Going to the dentist is almost as painful as watching quarterback Jay Schrader getting drilled these days. The 49er Raider game was like watching the Italian army battle the Iraqi Republican Guard, a battle to see who could retreat further. Back they went. But it was quarterback Steve Young who surrendered the game to a Raider defense which held the 49ers without a touchdown and preserved a less than heart-pounding 12-6 victory. Coming off a heartbreaking loss on Monday night, the New York Jets needed both a jolt of lady luck and a dose of Dame Fortune to defeat the Miami Dolphins. But both Ken O'Brien and Dan Marino disdained luck for brilliance, and for a while it looked like a recreation of their 1986 quarterback classic, a game that produced a staggering 884 yards and 96 points. But the dramatic ebb and flow suddenly turned into a stunning tidal wave of points for the New York Jets.
His own 7-yard line, gets the snap from center, moves forward, and it's blocked, it's picked up, it's a New York touchdown. Burkhead dropped it and picked it up and scored. A complete reversal of fortunes. Takes the direct snap, goes back to pass, throws down the middle, intercepted, New York ball. McMillan along the left side, he's going to go all the way. No one near him now. He's gone 80 yards for the touchdown.
While the Dolphins seem to be free-falling without a parachute, the Jets, in a reversal of fortune, appear to be climbing upward in the AFC East. Coming up, a look back at Hall of Famer Earl Campbell, the leading rusher of the late 70s and early 80s. More NFL highlights, including the Lions' victory featuring Barry Sanders, today's most electrifying runner. And NFL Potpourri spotlights one of the men truly inside the NFL.
You won't want to miss this week's NFL Potpourri because we're going to take you inside an NFL locker room to show you what goes on behind the scenes. What goes on behind the scenes is what Gary Myers talks about each and every week. Here we are, the Saints are 5-0, and I think one of the big reasons is their quarterback, Bobby Hebert. How close did Hebert come to not being with this club?
Well, the Raiders last year, Lenny, were really the only team that had shown any interest in trading for Hebert. Right before the trade deadline last year, they offered a first and a fifth-round draft choice, and the Saints asked for a first-round pick and guard Steve Wisniewski, who's really their best offensive lineman. Al Davis refused to get rid of Wisniewski.
Now, a couple of weeks ago on our show, Hebert said, hey, I'm a nice guy. I can get along with anybody. That's what he said. What did his teammates say about him not playing last year and coming back this year?
Well, I know one thing. The wide receivers are really happy that Bobby Hebert is back, because there was a lot of complaints last year about Steve Walsh's inability to throw those out patterns and to get the ball down the field. So the wide receivers are real happy that Bobby Hebert signed a contract with the Saints.
Well, I think one thing Bobby Hebert found out is there's no free agency in the National Football League. Within the next week or two, the owners are going to present their proposal for free agency. What's it going to be?
Well, first of all, what the players want is total unrestricted free agency for all players after 4 years. The owners aren't even going to come close to that. I understand it's a two-tiered proposal. 6 years for all players except quarterbacks, who have to be in the league 8 years before there's total unrestricted free agency. I spoke this week with Jim Quinn, who's an attorney representing the players, and he said that under no circumstances will they accept that, and he's very pessimistic that a settlement can be reached before this whole case goes to court in February in Minneapolis.
Now, the inevitable happened. Colts are 0-5. Ron Myers got fired. Who do you look for to be the next permanent coach?
I think you'd have to say right now there are two early favorites. Mike White, who's the Raiders quarterback coach, coached Jeff George 1 year in Illinois and has a very close relationship with him, and also is held in very high regard by the Ursays. The other guy you have to throw in there is Buddy Ryan. I spoke to him minutes after Meyer got fired, and basically he told me he'd go there tomorrow if he's asked. He had an interview with the Colts 7 years ago. He likes the Ursays. I consider him the number 2 choice right now.
Well, you must consider that Buddy did turn the Eagles situation around here a few years ago. Now, the trading deadline is coming up next Tuesday. You have been following the Bobby Humphrey situation in Denver. Now that Tim Harris has been traded from Green Bay to the 49ers, do you look for maybe that trade between San Francisco and Denver to happen?
Well, this is really a two-pronged situation we have here. First of all, Gaston Green is leading the AFC in rushing, and I'd have to say after 5 weeks, the guy looks like he's for real. So he pretty much makes Bobby Humphrey expendable. And now that Tim Harris is in San Francisco, they've really loaded up on pass rushers. So maybe George Seifert changes his mind and gives up one of his defensive linemen. Lenny, this is really a deadline league. Nothing tends to happen until the last minute. So we have until next Tuesday to find out how badly the 49ers want Bobby Humphrey.
All right, Gary, thank you very much. You have until about 10 minutes to eat these beignets, or else I'm going after. See you next week in New York. When Earl Campbell made his debut in the National Football League, he was someone special. He had the power of Jim Brown, the speed of an O.J. Simpson. Although he gained most of his yardage in Houston as a member of the Oilers, he did finish out his career right here as a member of the Saints with his old coach, Bum Phillips. And it's Kurt Gowdy. He's going to profile the one and only Earl Campbell in this week's Where Are They Now?
But I think that I realized that God gave me a great talent to be an athlete when I was very young. And I knew that if I worked at it, and which I did, I worked very hard at it, because I wanted to be known as among the best that ever played the game.
And that he is, Earl Christian Campbell. His name is synonymous with greatness. With legs of steel, this Terminator was virtually unstoppable. 6.5 years as the running back of Houston, Campbell ranks first in rushing with an Oiler career-high 8,574 yards. Earl was traded in 1984 to the New Orleans Saints.
God knows I never wanted to leave Texas. I think because of that, a little bit of football left me. I mean, I lost my interest in it. And that's why I retired so early. I mean, I just said, what the heck, get on out of here.
Retirement didn't take Earl out of football. It put him back into the game, only the players have gotten a lot younger.
In Texas, you couldn't have a football camp until about 3 years ago. So I got to talking to these guys that make the rules and regulations. So yeah, I think it'd be great. So I just started putting bits and pieces together, and I built the football camp, my staff and I.
At the Earl Campbell Football Camp, a non-contact camp in San Marcos, Texas, kids from the age of 9 through high school learn different aspects of the game and get insight from the pros who play it.
I'd take a guy like Troy Aikman, or Billy White Shoes Johnson, or Marcus Allen, And I invite them down. And I tell them, I'd love for you to stay a couple of days, but one night I'd like for you to sit down and tell the kids about how you made it. It's amazing because how many kids in Texas that get close to any pro football player? Not very many. So that one day in their life, they can say, hey, I was with Troy Aikman just this one day.
Earl's office is located in Austin, Texas, and when football camp is finished up, Earl gets busy on another very important project.
Tell them I love them that much.
Earl's making sausage and his own special sauce. As if 2 careers aren't enough, Earl splits his time between a 3rd career as a counselor at the University of Texas, where he works with student athletes.
I just try to tell them, there's going to be a life after football, man. A life after golf. What are you going to do when you have a family? Your kid's going to ask you, why do I have to go to college, Dad? You don't have a degree.
Earl Campbell, a Texas legend and one of the greatest to ever play the game of football, inducted into the Hall of Fame this year.
Telling him what a great son he had. Look at my son, I know he can handle it. And I thank you all so much. Everything.
A man who has 3 very different careers, but only one goal: to listen and to fulfill a need.
Who knows, one of these days I'll be sitting home on my porch in Texas. So, that kid came through my camp. I'm sure happy I helped him out.
You can see that Earl Campbell is someone very special, not only as a player, but as a man. Chris, a lot of people said because of the punishing style of running that he used, that his career was shortened. I look at it the other way around. Because of that punishing style of running, the careers of some of the people who had to tackle him shortened.
Lenny, you're exactly right. Earl Campbell is the only guy that I can remember that our defense was afraid of. Literally, when he broke into the secondary, defensive backs looked for somebody to block him. He crushed defensive backs, just devastated them. Nick, you played 15 years in National Football League. Do you remember anybody like Earl Campbell?
Chris, I never played against a guy that was as big, as strong, powerful, and as fast as Earl Campbell. The closest thing to that was Cookie Gilchrist back in the early 60s for the Buffalo Bills. This guy ran, punished people, and left them for the body bags.
There is someone playing right now that can compare, sort of, and that is Christian Okoye. He's 260. He runs the 40 in 4.5 seconds, but until he develops that reckless abandon type of running that Earl Campbell had, he can't be compared to him. The player in the NFL whose stats most resemble Campbell's is the Colts' Eric Dickerson. But unlike the excitement generated here in New Orleans, Colts fans have endured loss after loss watching the bottom of the NFL barrel.
At the bottom of every barrel are the dregs, and while the Colts have been mired in the windless depths of the NFL's skid row, Ron Meyer will no longer accompany them. Chuck Knox, on the other hand, used vintage play calling to start a Seahawk bacchanal.
Over the left side, behind a block by John L. Cuts into the 5. Touchdown Seahawks as Benner takes it in.
Ground Chuck finally looked well done, but a raw Dan McGuire was replaced by Jeff Kemp at the start of the second half. Jeff George, however, could only wish as much, as his line offered only perfunctory protection. Then the Colts special teams offered even less resistance.
Warren, as he glides up to the 41, makes the catch, now tries to peel back. One man misses him. He's all the way back to the 33. Now turns up the right sideline. Down the sideline he goes to the 40. Down to the 30. One man to beat at the 20. Stumbling to the 10. Touchdown Seahawks! Warren takes it in.
If the Colts continue to specialize in token tackling, new head coach Rick Venturi may not fare much better than his predecessor. In the Motor City, Richard Williamson was watching the heavens for a harbinger of good tidings, like maybe his first victory of the season. Of course, waiting for your first win isn't easy, and playing the NFL's most surprising team doesn't help.
And Rodney fires left side. Willie Green over the shoulder. Yes, touchdown!
But if the Lions are a surprise, their weapon of choice isn't.
9 from the 32. Pitch out to Berry. Left side. Hole 35, 40. Berry on the run to the 50, to the 45, to the 40. Look out, 30. They'll never catch him. See you later. Touchdown, Lions.
On the day, Barry Sanders proved more than abrasive to the Bucs as he wore down Tampa's defense for 160 yards. sending Tampa Bay to the bottom of the NFC Central barrel and the Lions to the top. The Chargers are used to seeing the rest of the NFL from a worm's eye view, but these denizens of the dirt were trying to climb out of the bottom of the barrel. Unfortunately, the opening kickoff had them over a barrel and in a pickle. Rookie Harvey Williams' return set up the Chiefs' first touchdown. It also set off the Chargers' defense, which promptly shut down the Chiefs. Chargers back Rod Bernstein rushed for over 100 yards and the equalizing score. Marty Schottenheimer and the Chiefs remained undaunted, however, and exchanged smash mouth for soft touch with favorable results.
Back to pass Steve. He pump fakes. He moves up. He evades the rush. He throws down the middle. The pass caught. Touchdown, Kansas City.
The Chiefs' victory keeps them within arm's length of the division lead, while the Chargers have just about drowned in the bottom of the barrel.
Going back to last season, the San Diego Chargers have lost 8 straight games. That's the longest losing streak in the NFL. Quite a contrast to the Saints, who have won their last 7 regular season games. The reason is defense, and former middle linebacker Nick Buoniconti is with Pat Swilling and Sam Mills, 2 of the Saints' outstanding linebackers.
Hey, linebackers 5-0, the Saints not scored upon. The defense hasn't given up a touchdown in the last 3 ball games. What's ignited you guys? What's happened?
Well, we're just playing good, hard-nosed football out there. We're not making any mistakes. We're coming up with some turnovers when we need them, and we're just real solid out there.
You sound like Coach Mora. I mean, you guys are just flying all over the place. You linebackers look best draped around a quarterback's neck.
Well, I think we're trying to keep the quarterback off balance, and right now we're doing a great job. Our coordinator's calling some plays and getting me and Ricky Jackson up the field. Sam and Vaughn are coming, but I think the play our defensive line is coming real well. They're doing a good job and coming hard, and it's an overall effort.
Sam, I talked to Coach Mora. He said that you're the best inside linebacker in the league. You're 5'9", 225 pounds. What makes Sam run?
Well, I guess it's all really determination. I'm glad that he's saying that, and he feels that way about me. I feel honored, but it's all really determination. I'm just determined to make plays and get around the football, and thank God I've been able to get around the ball.
Is there competition amongst you linebackers? Now, you know, last year you had 11.5 sacks. This past week, Ricky Jackson had 3 sacks. Now, do you guys go in there and jive each other to who's going to be the best sack guy on the team?
Oh, I think it's healthy competition. I don't think there's anyone that's wishing that the other guy doesn't do well. I think we come out and we play very well as a team, but I think there's a little competition there between all 4 of us to get to the ball and make plays, and I think that competition helps us to be a good football team.
How far can this defense go? Now, last year you guys made it to the playoffs, snuck in the back door, but hell, you made it to the playoffs. Is this team a Super Bowl team?
Well, we like to think that we have as good a chance as anybody of winning the Super Bowl. And what we have to do is basically take it one game at a time and go out and keep playing hard. But we feel like we have as good a chance as anybody does.
Are you guys emotional? I know the team looks like it's an emotional team. Usually what happens with emotional teams is something goes wrong, the bubble bursts. Could this happen to you guys?
I don't think so. I think we're an emotional team, but I think also we're a veteran team. I think we have guys like me, Sam, Vaughn, Ricky, we've been together a while. We have other guys who've been there 6, 7, 8 years, and we play very emotional, but also we're a veteran player. We know how to continue to play once we have some adversity, and we just try to overcome the adversity and continue to play hard.
Superdome, your home field, 70-some-odd thousand people screaming. That offense comes out of the huddle. They can't hear a thing. Is this a real big advantage to you guys?
It is for me. I think also rushing against the tackles I played against, and for Ricky on the other side, sometimes they can't hear the snap count. And quick as I am off the ball, I think I'm able to get upfield and get to the quarterback when they don't even know what's going on because they can't hear the count.
Sam, how about you? Are they really the 12th man on the field for you guys?
Oh, definitely. It feels good to hear all that noise in the Superdome, and we know that an offense can't check plays. Once they decide that they're going to run a play, they basically have to run that play. They can't check in and out of different plays against us. And it's a good feeling to know that they can't do that.
All right, you linebackers, keep it going. I love it. 5-0.
Thank you.
Is Buoniconti in his glory or what? Here he is talking to two members of a linebacking corps considered the best in the National Football League.
You know, but I talked to Sam Mills off camera a little bit, and he said that one thing that he really enjoys doing with this defense is stoking the competition between Pat Swilling and Ricky Jackson. That when they're competing for sacks, it's a better football team. So far, Sam Mills is exactly right. 8.5 sacks between those two guys.
You know who's really happy? The defensive backs, because the more pressure those linebackers put on the quarterback, the easier their job is.
Yeah, and while Sam Mills and Pat Swilling have been here 6 years, one guy who's been around for 19 years is longtime equipment manager Dan Simmons. He's the subject of this week's NFL Potpourri. In New Orleans, the job of equipment manager is steeped in tradition.
I kind of consider myself as like the old medieval equipment manager. You know, you get the knight dressed in his shining armor to go out there and do battle.
Dan Simmons has been putting the armor on the Saints now for 19 years, and he learned the trade from his father, Bill, who was the St. Louis Cardinals equipment manager for 22 years.
One of the biggest things that I picked up from him was his organization, and it certainly helped me over the years. I follow his footsteps in doing that.
Well, Dan needs to be organized because as far as he's concerned, the Saints play away games every week. That's because their practice facility is located far from the Superdome where they play. And Dan has to pack all their equipment up and haul it to the site of the game, whether it's New Orleans or not. On Saturdays, Dan and his crew pack everything into moving vans and head out to the Superdome where they carefully place each item in the lockers. Sunday morning, Dan is there by 6:30 putting out the actual uniforms. After helping players get dressed, he heads out to the field where he gets to watch the football game. For him, the hard part is over.
Once we get them on the field and kickoff starts, that's the easy part of the game for us. It's just getting them out there that's the toughest part.
Being an equipment manager in the National Football League is a tough job. When training camp gets underway, they spend 7 days a week, 16 to 18 hours working. It's a thankless job, we know that. But to all of you equipment managers out there in the National Football League, there are three people here that say thank you very much, because without you, it wouldn't get done. And without the pick segment, we wouldn't know how Chris Collinsworth did the week before. So let's take a look at last week.
What high drama. Let's see who's in first. Oh, no.
Well, he's on top, right?
That's a highlight.
What about for the season? How's Chris doing?
I'm probably leading this.
He's on top there, too, Lenny. But he's on the bottom.
The guy is constant, I'll tell you that. Now, here are some of the games that we agree on. Dallas will beat Green Bay in a game played in Milwaukee. Miami over New England. It's going to be the Jets downing Cleveland. Houston over Denver. The Raiders over San Diego, because the Raiders are 17-2 at home under Art Shell. And Pittsburgh should have no problem with Indianapolis. Now let's talk about some games in more detail. And first we'll start off with Philadelphia, Tampa Bay. We'll go to Chris because Chris once lived there. He almost played for the Bandits. What do you think of this game?
Well, just to prove why I'm in last place, I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think Pat Ryan can get the job done at quarterback for Philadelphia. That Tampa Bay defense, much better than people give them credit for. Tampa Bay.
That's why that reasoning's going to keep you in last place. The Eagles going to go to single wing offense this week, and they're not going to need Pat Ryan. That defense will get the turnovers and win the game.
Yeah, who knows if Pat Ryan is going to start in this ball game, and the Eagle defense is just too strong. I like Philadelphia. All right, the next game we got Minnesota at Detroit. And Nick, the Lions have won 4 in a row with Barry Sanders.
Since they wanted to fire Wayne Fontes, the head coach, and Barry Sanders has come back, that team is a different football team. Minnesota has not been able to score any points. I like Detroit at home.
Well, everybody talks about Barry Sanders, but don't forget about the job that Rodney Peete has done with that football team. A lot of people wrote him off the last couple of years as not really being a top-notch NFL quarterback, but he's been outstanding this year. I'll take the Lions.
Well, I just can't understand Minnesota offense can't score any points with all the talent they have. I like the Detroit Lions as well. All right, we've got Phoenix at the Giants. The Giants already have lost as many games this year as they did all of last.
I can't believe I'm going to take the Giants again, but at home, they've got to be able to beat the Phoenix Cardinals. Even if LT doesn't play in this football game, Ray Handley's job in a little bit of limbo right now.
Starting
but
another
I still
rumor
like
now.
the Giants.
Well, defensively, the Giants are playing good football, but offensively, Jeff Hostetler is getting a bad rap. If that offense would get up and get going, give this guy his due, this guy deserves to be a starting quarterback. The Giants will win.
All right. He did play very well last week, but you got to get it in the end zone. I like New York at home in that ball game. Seattle at Cincinnati.
You know, Lenny, Cincinnati has not played well this year. Seattle has problems with the quarterback situation. The receivers of Cincinnati have been short-arming the football.
Short-arming? What do you mean by that?
If they would stick it out and let them catch the size and passes, they might win some games. I like Cincinnati.
Those little alligator arms you're talking about.
Expose the ribs is what he's talking about.
Cincinnati played much better before their off week last week against the Washington Redskins. They should bounce back. 2 tough home games they've had already, Houston and Washington. I like Cincinnati against Seattle. Come on, guys.
I think that Seattle now knows how valuable David Craig is to that offensive unit. I like Cincinnati as well. All right, we've got Washington at Chicago. Here's an interesting game.
Washington coming off of that very emotional win over the Philadelphia Eagles, may be due for a little bit of a letdown. I like the Bears at home in this one.
Chicago's defense plays great, but the offense still is sort of sporadic. Washington has it all going. Great offense, great defense. Rippon's playing fine football. I like the Redskins.
Chicago's defense is playing that well. How about against Buffalo? I mean, Buffalo's defense was on the field for a long time until Kelly got out there and started firing that ball. I like the Redskins and their complete football team. All right, let's go to a Monday night game. We talked about Buffalo. Kansas City will be hosting the Bills.
You know, if Albert Lewis was guaranteed to play this week, and he could lock up on Andre Reed, then I think I would pick Kansas City. But they're not sure Lewis is going to play. Buffalo has too much offense and just enough defense to beat Kansas City. I like the Bills.
Well, just to complete my week of upsets here, I like the Kansas City Chiefs. The Buffalo Bills have been sailing right along, but they've had trouble on the road at Tampa and at the New York Jets. They've really struggled. Kansas City's a better football team than either one of those teams. I'll take the Chiefs.
I like Kansas City a lot. I like the players, but I don't like the way their offense has been going this season so far. They haven't been on track. Jim Kelly's going to be too much. I like Buffalo. Well, thank you for joining us here at the French Quarter in New Orleans. We hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you'll join us next week on HBO's Inside the NFL when we bring it to you from New York. Be sure to join us this Saturday, October the 5th, as undisputed lightweight champion Pernell Whitaker defends his crown against the very rugged Jorge Paez. It's coming your way 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, right here on HBO.
5 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pro, best middle linebacker ever. If you don't believe it, ask me. Stay tuned next week to find out where I am now.
New Orleans Saints are on a roll. Their aim is set to reach their goal, to make the playoffs and march to the Super Bowl. In '87 we believed, and it helped them march to 12-3. Now it's time to support them all the way. You gotta believe. You gotta believe it. It's time for us to pack the dome, wear our black and gold before we leave home. The boys really need some fun support today. Oh yeah. Saints fans, if you
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports, the network of champions.